The rain lashed against the windows of the night train as it cut across the European countryside. Iryna Zarutska sat quietly in her seat, staring at her reflection in the glass. She was 26, a refugee from Ukraine who had lost everything, her home reduced to rubble, her family scattered across borders. Her eyes were tired, but beneath the exhaustion was determination. She carried a small suitcase, a threadbare coat, and a diary filled with her memories, her only anchor to the past. The train was full that evening. Families huddled together, students whispered in different languages, and strangers eyed one another warily, united by displacement yet divided by fear. In the next carriage, a man sat alone, hood pulled low over his face. Some passengers recognized him immediately: Robert Kelly, the disgraced American singer who had fled the headlines and the courtrooms of his home country. Rumors swirled about why he was on the train at all. Some said he was running from justice, others that he was chasing redemption in anonymity. But to most, he was just another shadow among shadows. Iryna noticed him only once, when he walked past her seat on his way to the dining car. Their eyes met briefly. She recognized him instantly, though she pretended not to. He gave her a nod, the kind strangers share in silence, and disappeared. She wondered what a man like him was doing here, but she didn't dwell on it. Her priority was survival. As night fell, the atmosphere inside the train shifted. The lights flickered, casting long shapes across the carriages. Laughter from a group of travelers grew louder, while the whispers of others deepened into private conversations. The air smelled of cheap coffee and exhaustion. Iryna opened her diary and began writing. She wrote about Odessa, about the apartment she left behind, about her mother's voice fading into the distance the last time they spoke. She wrote to feel human, to keep the chaos outside at bay. In the dining car, voices rose. Two men argued loudly about stolen money. A glass shattered on the floor. The conductor stepped in to quiet them, but the tension lingered like smoke in the air. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure if violence was waiting just around the corner. Returning to her cabin, Iryna felt the shift in atmosphere. She held her diary closer, almost as though it were a shield. As she passed the hooded man's seat, she noticed his hands tremble slightly as he poured a drink. His eyes caught hers again, softer this time, almost apologetic. She moved on, unsettled but unwilling to ask why. That night, as the train sped deeper into the dark, an unease settled among the passengers. The sound of the wheels on the tracks grew louder, relentless, like a drumbeat warning of something to come. Iryna drifted into uneasy sleep, unaware that by dawn the whispers of danger would become screams. The scream came just after midnight. It cut through the train's steady rhythm, piercing the uneasy quiet of the sleeper cars. At first, passengers dismissed it as a nightmare or a drunken quarrel. But when the scream rose again, sharper, filled with terror, the corridor erupted into chaos. Doors flew open, faces appeared, and feet shuffled nervously toward the source of the sound. Iryna Zarutska was lying in the narrow aisle between two cabins, her coat torn open, her diary scattered beside her. A crimson stain spread across the fabric near her chest. Her hands trembled as she tried to hold herself together, eyes wide with shock. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by silence heavy enough to choke. "Call for help," someone shouted in broken English. The conductor rushed forward, pushing through the crowd with the urgency of a man who'd seen too many accidents on the rails. He knelt beside Iryna, pressing his hands against the wound. "Stay with us, miss. Stay with us." But her breathing was shallow, and her eyes were already losing their focus. From the corner of the crowd, a hooded figure moved closer: Robert Kelly. His presence alone drew whispers. Some passengers pointed accusingly, others recoiled, muttering about his past scandals and crimes. "It's him," a woman hissed. "Of course it's him. He's capable of this." Kelly raised his hands defensively. "I didn't do this," he said, his voice gravelly, carrying both fear and defiance. "I was in my cabin. I heard the scream like everyone else." But suspicion clung to him like smoke, and no one believed his protests. The train ground to a halt on the tracks, lights flickering as the conductor signaled for authorities. Passengers huddled together, fear twisting into paranoia. If one of them was a killer, then nobody was safe. Every whisper became a threat, every glance a clue. Iryna's diary pages were collected from the floor. The conductor flipped through them, his expression darkening. They were filled with memories of war, sketches of people she had met, and strange notes about a man with a mask. She had been writing about someone watching her, someone following her since she boarded. But the descriptions were vague, sometimes a tall figure, sometimes only shadows in windows. Kelly was questioned immediately, his hood pulled back, his face pale in the flickering light. He repeated his alibi. "I didn't touch her, I swear to God," but his reputation condemned him before any evidence could. The passengers demanded answers, justice, safety. By the time the authorities arrived at the next station, it was too late for Iryna. She was pronounced dead in the corridor, her blood staining the floor like a warning etched into the train itself. As the officers escorted Kelly away for questioning, he shouted over his shoulder, "You're chasing the wrong man. The real killer's still here. Look at her diary, look." But few believed him, and in the dimly lit train cars, where fear had now settled like fog, one truth was certain: the night was not finished claiming secrets. The investigation began before the train even reached the station. Police officers boarded, their boots heavy against the steel floors, their presence slicing the air with authority. Passengers were herded into compartments, questioned one by one. The body of Iryna Zarutska lay under a white sheet, her diary sealed in a plastic bag. Kelly was the first to be interrogated. His past weighed against him like an iron chain. "You had motive," an officer said bluntly. "You're a man with a violent history. Everyone here saw you near her." Kelly slammed his hand against the table. "My past isn't proof. I didn't even know her name until tonight. You're wasting time. Whoever did this is still out there." His words fell flat against the office's skepticism. To them, the disgraced singer was the easiest explanation. Meanwhile, detectives combed through Iryna's belongings. Her diary revealed more than grief, it hinted at fear. Pages described a man who boarded the train at the last stop, who followed her through the corridors, who whispered her name though she never gave it. She drew sketches of a ring with a distinct crest on it, the kind she said she saw glinting in the shadows. One officer remembered seeing such a ring earlier, on the hand of a well-dressed passenger traveling in first class. A businessman, smooth-spoken, who had claimed to be on his way to Vienna for a meeting. When questioned, he smiled thinly, his story neat, his passport immaculate. But beneath his coat, detectives found a knife wiped clean, though faint traces of blood remained in the grooves of the handle. The revelation changed everything. Kelly was released, though suspicion lingered. The businessman was led away in handcuffs, his mask of civility cracked. He muttered under his breath as they dragged him past the other passengers, "She shouldn't have written about me. She should have stayed silent." The diary had indeed been the key. Iryna, in her last days, had unknowingly documented her killer's presence. Her sketches, her notes, her fear, they were the breadcrumbs that revealed the truth. Yet even as the murderer was taken away, the train remained steeped in unease. For the passengers, safety was shattered, innocence buried under suspicion. For Kelly, freedom came not with relief but with the weight of knowing he would always be guilty in the court of public opinion, no matter what truth emerged. As dawn broke and the train pulled into its final destination, the world outside seemed unchanged, sunlight falling on quiet streets, the ordinary rhythm of life resuming. But for those who had been aboard, the night would linger forever. Iryna Zarutska's death was not just a tragedy, it was a reminder that even in flight, even in search of safety, danger can follow like a shadow across borders. And somewhere in the silence of the rails, the echoes of her diary remained, a voice refusing to be forgotten.